Hi everyone, today I just wanted to talk about binge drinking in Britain and the part that that played in all of our lives growing up, and a lot I kind of want to discuss around the blame. I think it's easy for us to blame ourselves all the time. How did I get myself in this situation? I can't believe I'm here. How did I end up this? But I think it's important to look back. I'm 41, and a lot of people, I guess, if you're 30 plus, will kind of suffer in the same boat. And I don't think that we should personally take the blame for a lot of what happened, and I'll go through the reasons why. And I just want you to kind of cast yourself back to maybe 20 years ago, maybe even 10 years ago, when all you saw on the TV, probably more 20 years ago, certainly when I was growing up in kind of the late 90s, early 2000s, where everything around TV, the excitement was around booze. You had programs like, Ibiza Uncovered, Club 1830, and that was kind of, the ultimate peak, going to Ibiza, going to Mallorca, Magaluf, Ayia Napa, and just getting hammered, and it was totally glorified on TV. And, you had sponsorships and, like you had Tea in the Park where everyone went, just drunk tenants all the time and got hammered, and sporting events were all sponsored by the alcohol companies and the tobacco companies as well back then. And I think if you're growing up in that and you're seeing that every day, it can't be healthy, and there's a reason why all that's banned today. And this isn't, I loved growing up when I grew up. It was just, I wouldn't change it for the world. No mobile phones, no internet. You just used to go out and hang about, and I just thought it was the best time ever to be alive. But looking back, you do think it has to have an impact, and like I say, we can't blame ourselves too much for the situation we're in. And another thing is that I was thinking about and looking back at was the celebrities that were about at the time. You had hundreds of these celebrity magazines, and all they would be full of would be rock stars and models, etc., like Kate Moss and the Noel and Liam Gallagher walking out of pubs or clubs absolutely smashed. And that was kind of what you aimed for. That was the kind of pinnacle. All the kind of best looking girls and supermodels in the world would go out with these total bad guys, like Pamela Anderson going out with that guy, someone Lee his name was, and that was kind of it. The Kate Moss was going out with a guy from the Libertines, and it was just a cool thing to be photographed walking out of a bar with a cigarette in your mouth and some, like a pint of beer. And I genuinely looked up to that, especially when you're 14, 15, 16. You're like, here's folk in bands or movie stars, they just get hammered all the time. They're doing what they're doing, and they're still, landing the supermodel girlfriends, supermodel wives. They're millionaires. They're, trashing hotel rooms, and everyone's loving them and admiring them. And, that kind of does stick with you, and that definitely has to have an impact on your later life. And also remember your peers around you as well, where pretty much everyone drank. And it was just kind of glorified to drink, and there was, people would give you a beer when you're 14, 15, and, you just felt like a total adult, and it was just a way to adulthood. I just remember some like New Year parties when, you're quite young and you're still like, everything was like, can you steal a beer? And you just felt like, I just felt like a man, even if I had like a shandy or something. And like I say, that's what you kind of aim for. You just aimed for that day where you would go out and you could get into a bar or a club and have a pint. And like I say, it was like a path to manhood and womanhood, that you were now old enough to go out and get hammered. It was totally wild, and then you had kind of social pressure. And back then, there was none of this it was more of a kind of man up culture where you didn't really speak about feelings or anything like that. The workplace, like the majority of people smoked. There was Friday drinks. The team buildings were basically let's get hammered. The Christmas party was a free bar, and just the pressure to drink. I mean, I'm not going to complain about it. I thought it was absolutely brilliant back then, and I thought it was just wonderful, and that's kind of what people did. That was just the norm as well. It's completely alien looking back, but if you spoke to like a 16-year-old now or 18-year-old and you told them that was the ongoing, they probably wouldn't believe you. The offices are so different now, and the culture is so different, and information so different. But you never had campaigns on the TV telling you about drink, because they were all probably in cahoots. The booze companies are paying the advertising companies, and everyone in government drunk, and it was just something that you did. But like I say, looking back, I mean, kind of what hope did any of us have to not turn into kind of binge drinkers or heavy drinkers? And you also had the pubs everywhere. Everywhere did happy hour. I do think happy hours should still exist, because I know not thousands of people, I know so many people that can just go for a few drinks, and I think it's really harming the pub trade. But for a lot of people, my local pub was £1.50 a drink all Sunday, and I think from 4 till 8. So you would just go out and get hammered. And when I was a student, early 2000s at uni, you could have 20p vodka mixers a night, 30p for a shot of aftershock, and 40p pints, and that was all night, free to get in, and you would just drink till you drop, and just absolutely crazy times, just things that you would never get here. So like say, if you kind of mix in that, just growing up with the TV and the adverts and celebrities who you admire just drinking, and your peers drank, and there was pubs everywhere, and it was on the TV, and all your favourite sporting events were sponsored by this booze company, that booze company. It's really quite incredible. But just wanted to make this video just to kind of remind you that it's not your fault, it's not our fault that we ended up like this, and that's just the way it was. But there is a chance now to kind of start your second life and get back to sober ways, which thankfully I'm on. But hopefully you like this video. I'm releasing daily videos at the moment, and got quite a lot in the playlist as well if you want to watch. But please like and subscribe, really helps the channel, and I'll see you next time. Take care, bye.